One question I get asked a lot from students in the time leading up to a Vipassana retreat is how can I prepare myself for something like this? This video is going to try to answer this question in depth. It's going to be the most comprehensive resource for the questions you have leading up to a retreat that you can find online. At least I couldn't find anything better. That's one of the reasons why I decided to make this video. We're going to look at habits and what kind of problems they can create on a retreat. We're going to look at food, alcohol, smoking, coffee, sleep. We're going to look at your posture, how to sit on a Vipassana retreat, how to prepare yourself for that. We're going to look at mental health issues. We're going to look at how you can develop the necessary discipline to help you prepare for such a challenging spiritual experience like a Vipassana retreat. We're going to ask questions like, is it okay to go with a friend or should I rather go alone? We're going to look at how to make a commitment. We're going to look at expectations, a huge issue for a retreat like this. And we're going to look at things like, what kind of meditation can I do up front? How can I calm my mind in the time leading up to the retreat? And how am I going to deal with media intake, for example? So we're going to really look at a lot of issues. We're going to look at the schedule of a retreat. We're going to look at the rules that you have to play by on a retreat like this. And we're going to try to tie it all together and give you a real in-depth view of what it's going to be like and how to best prepare. So, if you're ready to go on a Vipassana retreat and you still have some questions how to prepare yourself, this is going to be the video for you. One of the biggest challenges that people have when they come to a retreat like this is that they have certain habits, and for the time being on the retreat, they won't be able to follow those habits anymore. And human beings are habitual beings, and certain habits that we have serve us very well as a distraction. And so there's an addiction that we build up to these distracting habits. And if somebody comes along and takes one of these habits away, you're already going to run into a problem. Now, if somebody comes along and takes 2, 3, 4 habits away at the same time, puts you in a completely different environment and puts stress on your mind and on your body, then you can maybe start to imagine how difficult something like this might be, especially in the first couple of days until, it's broken those habits, until the body and the mind surrender. So, of course, one of the big habits that everybody has, and people are not even so much aware of it very often, is food. We love to eat. People love to snack here and then. People are used to eating whenever they want to eat, and they're used to eating whatever they want to eat. And food plays a big role in distraction. It plays a big role in giving us comfort. And if you take that away, immediately, you just take that one thing away, and a lot of people will get very grumpy if they don't get enough food, if the food doesn't come to the right time, an hour, 2 hours too late, and already, they can't think of anything else anymore. They get very agitated. So maybe you are one of these people, and especially if you are, then this is a really important part of the preparation. So on a Vipassana retreat, usually you get 2 meals a day. Okay, you get breakfast and you get lunch. And in the afternoon, some places might give you a snack um, maybe a tea or a hot chocolate. But in most places, it's going to be reduced to just maybe a hot drink in the evening. And so you're going to have to get used to eating only twice a day. Now, everybody has different habits, and it depends on what you're used to. But my recommendation would be maybe 2 weeks before the retreat starts, reduce your meals to 2 meals a day. Now, I recommend starting with something that's easy for you. Okay, you gotta use this time to your advantage. If you don't do anything in preparation and you just step right into the retreat, it's gonna hit you. But that's not necessary. You don't have to do that to yourself when you prepare yourself. So let's say you're not big on breakfast anyway, so just eat lunch and dinner for a week. Just reduce it to 2 meals a day. Or maybe you don't eat lunch very often, then just have breakfast and dinner. You don't have to have the exact schedule right away. Just reduce the amount of food you're taking in. It takes time for your stomach to get used to having less food per day. Okay, so by the way, it's not a problem to eat twice a day. Okay, it's completely fine. The monks eat once per day, and and some of them are big. It's not like they're like starved. It's absolutely fine, especially if you are reducing your activity level. I mean, if you're sitting, walking very slowly, you're not burning a lot of calories. So you don't worry that you're gonna starve or something like that. Okay, it's about getting your stomach to get used to having a little bit less food than normal. It needs to shrink a little bit. And as soon as it's shrunk, it's not going to complain anymore. It's going to be completely normal. And about a week before the retreat, okay, you can start to mimic the schedule. You eat your breakfast and you eat your lunch and you don't eat any dinner, period. No, what's the word? No excuses, but that's not the word I'm looking for. No exceptions. Okay, no exceptions. Here it comes already. It's not just about the food; it's also about the discipline. Okay, you have to develop a certain amount of discipline. Any kind of spiritual practice discipline is an essential part of any spiritual practice. On a Vipassana retreat, if you don't have the discipline to meditate, to follow the instructions and meditate, and you just let your mind wander, for example, nobody's gonna come up to you and tell you, oh, listen, you're not doing the meditation right, or something like that. There are ways to see if somebody's actually doing the practice or not, but even then, no one's gonna monitor your mind. You are responsible for your own practice, and it's gonna take discipline. And discipline is something that you can learn. And very often, the discipline that we have in our daily lives is codependent on other people. So yes, I'm disciplined if I am afraid that somebody might notice that I'm not doing something I should be doing. But if it comes down to nobody's looking, nobody cares, am I still completely disciplined there? And that's a different story. And it's that kind of discipline that you need to start to build up. It's something that you can build up. And it's essential for the retreat. It's essential for the outcome of the retreat. It's essential for how deep you are going to penetrate those layers of your own perception of reality on the retreat. The more disciplined you are, the better the results. And you're the only one who can do it. So we're talking about food, but we're also talking about discipline. So really, if you've decided, you make a decision in the time leading up to the retreat. Okay, you're going to make a schedule, ideally. Okay, 2 weeks before, I'm going to reduce to 2 meals. 1 week before, I'm going to reduce to just a breakfast and a lunch, and no exceptions. Period. You're going to fully commit. Why? Because you understand how precious this opportunity is that you are allowed to be part of, and that it is going to change your life to the better. It's going to make a complete radical difference as to how you perceive reality and how you deal with problems and how you react to external confrontations or external difficulties. It's gonna it's gonna put tools in your lap that are gonna enable you to become a better person, a happier person. Your relationships are going to become better. Your concentration is going to become better. Your health is going to become better. Your mood is going to become better. Everything is going to, I don't want to get into the benefits of a Vipassana retreat. That you could fill a whole video with that. But it is incredibly beneficial. And that is going to be a motivation for your discipline. Okay, so you're building discipline and you're getting used to the reduced amount of food. Now, there's 3 aspects to the food. One is that you will only get 2 meals. The other one is that you will get only vegetarian food. Okay, so for maybe a lot of you that might not be a problem, and usually the chefs on a retreat like that, they're very creative, they're very professional, and they can really do stuff on a vegetarian level, which is amazing. I've always told the chefs on our retreats actually not to cook that amazing because you don't want to make the food too good. When the food's too good, people just think about the food all day long. But if you are a meat eater, don't worry. Okay, the food's gonna be okay. It's gonna be good. Plus, if you have to envision yourself being in this environment where you're not talking to anyone, all the external stimulation has been removed, and you're just concentrating on yourself. And you're just really focusing on all those physical sensations and everything that arises and passes in your mind, and all the emotional states that come and go. So you're going to sensitize yourself towards everything that you experience on a physical and mental level. So of course, even the act of eating is going to become extraordinary, because most people don't even pay attention to the food when they eat it. They might say, oh, this is wonderfully cooked and this is great, blah, 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 blah. But really what they're doing is they're talking to others, or they're watching TV, or they're scrolling on their phone. Okay, on a Vipassana retreat, you don't have any of that. So you're going to be asked to really focus on the experience of eating. And it's like your taste buds are going to become alive. It's like they've been asleep all your life. And all of a sudden, boom, there's all these flavors and hues. And it's going to, it's going to blow your mind. Just eating is going to blow your mind. It's going to be an extraordinary experience. So don't worry if you're a big time meat eater. You're going to be fine. But I would ask you, or what I would suggest, if you are a meat eater, to reduce the meat as well. Okay, reduce your meat maybe in the first 2 weeks, in the first week of those first 2 weeks, just reduce it by half. And in the last week, that's before the retreat, take it out completely. Okay, just look at it in a way that, it's an experiment, and it can be fun, Look up some vegetarian recipes, go and do the shopping, take your time for those meals, And really, don't do anything while you eat. Don't do anything else than eating. Okay? Just sit there, look at the food, imagine what had to happen, all the work that went into the production of this food and the people who were involved, and just really enjoy the experience and enjoy exploring new recipes, cooking vegetarian. And if you are a vegetarian, then, well, you don't have anything to worry about in that aspect. Anyway, you'll be well looked after on a retreat. I mean, this is the majority of Vipassana retreats. There might be some exceptions of Vipassana retreats that might serve you meat. Um, I know, well, in the monastery, I stayed in a Buddhist monastery for a while, and they certainly served meat also on the retreats, not only during regular monastic practice time, but also during retreat time, they had meat because they the food that they were offering was donated by people, and so they serve it. So if it's not that um, Buddhists are always vegetarian. That's actually not true. So there might be meat, but in most cases, I'd say 90 whatever percent um, of the retreats, it's going to be vegetarian. So just be aware of that. If you are a meat eater, cut it out. Okay. So you're gonna get a porridge maybe for breakfast. You're gonna get maybe some cereals for breakfast, and that's probably it. So maybe you can already try that out. If you're not a big porridge fan, you might be surprised how good porridge can be. Maybe try it yourself. Find some recipes. You can really do some amazing stuff with fruits. You might get some fruits for breakfast, depending on which region, which country you're in. But and for lunch, it's gonna be a rice dish, maybe a curry with some vegetables, or you might get some pasta, or these kind of things. If it's a fancy retreat, you might get some wraps or whatever, and then there'll be a salad. You know. So think along those lines. See how you can adjust your eating habits so that when the retreat comes, you don't have to deal with that radical change in your habits. Okay. Also, another thing, please don't run into the mistake of thinking, okay, this is a common thing. You can see this on every retreat. There's always a bunch of guys, usually men, bigger guys, strong dudes that think, oh, okay, 2 meals a day, no problem. What I'll do is I'll just load up twice the amount that I usually eat, and then I'll get plenty of food. It's not a problem. Okay, so if you please don't do that, and don't do that in the time leading up to the retreat. You're just fooling yourself, really. What you're gonna do is you're going to overeat, and then you're still stretching out your stomach. You're still gonna suffer in the evenings because you're hungry, and in the time immediately after eating, you're gonna be terribly tired and you feel sick and like uncomfortableness. It's just not a good thing to do. Just commit to eating less food. You don't have to cut down the amount of food. It's just a regular meal. But get used to going to bed with an empty stomach at least a week before the retreat. Okay? There's something for a lot of people very discomforting about going to bed with an empty stomach. And that can take a few days to get used to that rumbling and that discomfort of you're going to bed and you know that you're not going to eat. You have to go to sleep like this. That can be a bit nerve-wracking for people. So just give yourself enough time to get used to that. And really, once you run into that experience, if you're having a hard time, in order to keep up the discipline that's necessary for you to really make that change, and you have to change your habit before you go into the retreat, is just look at it as an experiment. everything that you're going to do on the retreat, you're going to be asked to become an observer. You're going to become a neutral observer of all phenomena unfolding, physical and mental. And no matter what, it doesn't matter if it's positive, neutral, or negative. Your job's going to be just to look at it. Your job's going to be to create a distance to it, and then just to have a look at it and say, oh yeah, there's that sensation. To not relate that sensation to yourself. You know, your job's not going to be like, oh, now I'm suffering from an empty stomach. Your job's going to be to like, oh, look, there is discomfort. There is annoyance. There is desire. You know, man, you are going to dream of food. Okay, you are going to crave whatever it is. There's going to be 2, 3 things that are going to come into your mind, and they're going to stay, and they're just going to sit there, and they're going to visualize themselves meals, food of some sort, and you're going to crave it throughout the entire retreat. Your job is just to look at that. Oh, look, there's craving. Oh, look, there's visualization again. Oh, look, there's this obsession again. Okay, oh, look, there's planning. You're going to spend all this time maybe planning what you're going to eat after the retreat. And these kind of thoughts are going to become very destructive for your meditation. It's going to take you a lot of effort to counter these thoughts and these cravings, especially if it's your first retreat. If you don't have a lot of experience working with these sensations, these thoughts, and these emotions, you know, it would be a lot better to have them maybe up front before the retreat, and then, you know, the whole thing is a bit smoother, because it can create a real problem, and it can make you really grumpy. And if you in the retreat on the first few days, your stomach is rumbling, you're getting upset about that. Maybe in addition to that, your roommate is snoring, and in addition to that, it might be the bed's uncomfortable, and then, you know, things are going to pile up. Okay, and before you know it, you're gonna think things like, oh my goodness, why in heaven's name did I sign up for this? Or like, I could probably just pack up my bags and leave, and nobody would notice. Or by the time they notice, I'll be gone. So you're going to think about leaving. You're going to regret the decision that you've come. You're going to think about complaining. You're going to think about, oh, I'm gonna have to talk to somebody, the facilitator, because I'm going to need to maybe change roommates. And you're going to have a lot of negative thoughts. And all of these negative thoughts are going to keep you from what you should be doing in the first place, which is just observe, meditate, be mindful. So, you know, the sooner you can get these annoying transitions out of the way, the better for you. It's going to make a huge difference. And food is a big issue. Now, when you think about food, of course, you know, hot drinks, you think about coffee. Okay, so what about coffee? Maybe you've been drinking a lot of coffee. Okay, maybe if you drink, let's say if you drink more than 1 coffee a day, then I can guarantee you will have a craving for coffee. I mean, I know plenty of people at work that if they don't have their coffee in the morning, I mean, you can't even talk to them. They get really upset. Okay, maybe you're one of those people. Okay, then you need to come down with your consumption, coffee consumption, considerably before you go on the retreat. Now, some retreats might allow you to have some coffee. Okay, that's possible. I mean, I've seen it. On our retreats, we wouldn't serve coffee. Simply, and even if they do serve coffee, I strongly suggest you don't drink it. Okay, because the reason is obvious, no? Should be obvious. Coffee stimulates you. It stimulates your body and it stimulates your mind. And, your main objective in a Vipassana retreat is to calm your mind and calm the body down so that everything gets quiet and still, and so that you can observe the subtleness of this existence, that you can look past all those busy sensations that usually keep you distracted in an everyday life and really penetrate those deeper layers. So coffee would obviously do the exact opposite, and you're going to have to fight that. You're going to have to compensate that, and it's going to be difficult enough. So you really don't want to add anything during the retreat that agitates you, that stimulates you. Not a good idea. Okay, even if because sometimes they offer coffee because they know that if people come to the retreat and they haven't reduced their consumption, that they're gonna go off the charts. And you rather have somebody buzzing a little bit with coffee than going crazy and saying, I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving. So sometimes, that's better, but it's not a good solution. Think about this. Be honest to yourself with everything that I talk about on this video. Please understand how often you actually lie to yourselves. I mean, you don't deliberately lie, but how often you have a false perception of yourself. Try to really be honest. Try to talk to people about this. What do you think? Am I gonna last without coffee? And then you'll see people start laughing. It's like, you without no, of course not. Then you have an issue there. So please, a major part of this preparation. It's a major part in any spiritual practice, not just the preparation. It follows through. It's a very, very important thing to do, is to be honest with yourself. Okay, and see where you're gonna have to make some adjustments in order to make your life a little bit easier when the retreat comes. Okay, so coffee, it always plays a big role with people, and of course cigarettes as well. Okay, if you are a smoker, well, guess what? No smoking on the retreat. Okay, no exception. I mean, there have been cases where I've had people on a retreat that the only way I could keep them on the retreat, they were about to leave. I mean, they were asking for their stuff. If you don't know this, once you arrive on the retreat, most retreats, I mean, pretty much every retreat probably, will ask you to hand in your valuables. Like, you're gonna hand in your wallet, your phone. We'll get to that in a bit. Anything that has a value to you, your wristwatch, your tablet, whatever it is that has value to you, and it's going to be put in a bag with your name on it, and it's going to go into a safe location. In most cases, it's either a safe or it's a locked room to which only the facilitators have access. And the reason for that is that once you're on retreat and you're sitting in the meditation hall, maybe you've seen somebody walk around the center who's not partaking in the retreat, and of course immediately you're like, oh, did I lock my room? No, I didn't lock my room. Well, you shouldn't really lock your rooms anyway, because otherwise you have a key to carry around, and then you're gonna have to think about where the key is and who has the key and the roommates and all these things. So these retreats are meant to be simple and for you to have no worries about anything. And if you have valuables in your room, you might be worried about somebody going in there and stealing them, cleaning lady or whatever. So that's one reason why these things are kept in a safe place. But this person, he wanted to come, and he was asking for his stuff back. He's saying, "Give me my stuff. I'm leaving." And the only way, I mean, by talking to him, I figured out why he wanted to leave. He needed to smoke. His addiction to nicotine was so severe, and the difficulty of the retreat had really peaked at this point for him. He needed that cigarette. That's just what he needed in that moment. So I made the decision to let him have that cigarette. It was better than having him leave. And he had his smoke, but then he had to give the other ones back. But what I'm saying is that this is an exception. On most retreats, you will not have the possibility to smoke, period. Okay. And if that's an issue for you, if you smoke a lot, then you know where you need to be prepared. You need to really bring it down. And smoking is a big issue. That's a real serious addiction. Just like alcohol can be a serious addiction. We'll get to that in a minute as well. Let's bring it all together. Alcohol as well. If you drink alcohol, if you drink more than the occasional glass of wine to dinner, meaning if you drink every evening, okay, a glass, 2 glasses, 3 glasses of wine, a bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles of beer, or in the more severe case, if you're actually an alcoholic, you need to address that. You need to address it before the retreat. And it gets difficult to tell people exactly how to address this. It's easier with food and these kind of things. But if you have a severe addiction or weed, like I used to smoke a lot of weed, and for me that was a huge thing. Like not to be able to smoke weed on a retreat. It wasn't so much that the withdrawal symptoms were that severe. It's just more that in my mind I was just always fantasizing about smoking when I get out. The first thing I'm gonna do when I get out of this retreat room, I was gonna roll up and lie on the beach. I used to live in Thailand, so I did all my Vipassana retreats. I was in Thailand, and smoked that joint, and that's disturbing for your practice. It's not good, but nicotine and alcohol can be even more severe. I mean, so I'm not going to tell you how to do that. You're going to have to see how you can manage that yourself. But you need to, if you smoke, if you drink alcohol, you need to address this. Give it enough time, and really use it. Look at it as a detox time. The time leading up to the retreat. Look at it as a detox time, and really focus in on not making it too brutal on yourself. Give yourself time, but really focus in on those habits, okay, on those negative habits. Coffee, alcohol, cigarettes, and maybe it's food for you as well, or any other weed, any other drugs. Okay, you need to get a grip on them before you get into the retreat. Otherwise, you're going to run into a huge problem. Okay. So I talked about what else? We talked about sleep briefly. I think I mentioned it. Sleep. Let's talk about sleep, because sleep is one of those things that people need as well. Yeah, I talked about sleep because for the empty stomach, that it might be difficult to go to sleep. Yeah. So think about the schedule. Have a look at the schedule, and you'll see that on a Vipassana retreat, usually what you're gonna do is you're gonna be woken up between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to go to bed. Well, the last meditation session is going to be somewhere between 8 and 9, depending on the retreat. And then you're probably going to go to bed. You'll be in bed by around 10. Maybe have a shower and wash up and these things. So it depends again, of course, what your normal routine is. What's your schedule? Well, what are you used to? Is it easy for you to stand up that early? Then, well, you're lucky. A lot of people have problems getting up that early. So my recommendation is always to try to mimic that sleep schedule as closely as you can in the weeks leading up to the retreat. Again, I think maybe 2 weeks is a good time. I mean, you're already noticing that I'm talking about maybe 2 weeks of food, and then 2 weeks of this and 2 weeks of that, and 1 week here and 1 week that. You see, these things are going to layer themselves, and depending on your individual constellation and what creates problems, or what kind of addictions and what kind of habits you personally have and how many of them have, you're going to have to try to spread things out and create a more smooth transition. So I'm not going to tell you exactly. These are just suggestions, okay? But you're going to have to come up with your own schedule, and I strongly encourage you to write them all down and put them on a timeline and really see when you have to start, and write in there, put in there what you're going to change at what point in time before the retreat starts, and then really try to stick to it. Okay, this is important, because otherwise you're going to slack off. Okay, this discipline thing is going to cause difficulties again. Well, who knows? Nobody's watching. I'll just do this a few days later, and right now I'm just going to do, no, I'm going to cry. Oh, and by the way, please do not make the mistake that I've made many times, and I know from experience with other people that make this mistake as well. Please don't be foolish and think that, oh yeah, well, why should I make it so difficult? These are 10 days. I'm just gonna deal with it. And why should I prolong these 10 days to maybe a month or two, where I have to reduce the intake of the things that are so important in my life? I'm just gonna go all out before the retreat. I'm just gonna, if you like to drink, I'm just gonna party. I'm just gonna drink and smoke. I'm gonna go all out till the day of the retreat, and then I'll go cold turkey. It's gonna be fine because I had this excess beforehand, and I'll just cope with it in those 10 days. Please, I've made that mistake many times. I've seen people make that mistake many times. Doesn't work. If you're really serious about radical transformation, if you really want to go for it, and in my opinion, if you're not serious about radical transformation, then you shouldn't be going to a Vipassana retreat in the first place, because then you're going to be in for a ride, because it's gonna change things in your life, and if you're not ready for change, then, well, I've seen a lot of people suffer through radical transformation who weren't prepared for it yet, and it's no fun. You can really get, you can really lose track. You can really get into some trouble. I'm trying not to use words that are going to scare you off. But, if you're really serious, which you should be, otherwise you shouldn't really go to a retreat, please don't go down that road. I've done it. It's not worth it. I've known people who've done it. They all suffered from it. It doesn't work out. Okay? So try to mimic the sleep schedule as good as you can. And really, my advice would be to get up at 4 o'clock. Why not? Do that 2 weeks before. Because, what you can do is, if you usually, I get up at 5 o'clock anyway. So for me, it's not a big difference, 4 or 5. It doesn't matter. But some people maybe get up at 7. So if you get up at 4, that gives you 3 hours. 3 hours before your normal schedule of whatever you have to do throughout the day kicks in. Those 3 hours you can use for all kinds of beautiful things. Well, at least what you can do is you can use them for meditation. You can put in an hour of meditation every morning. Morning meditations are beautiful meditations. They are amazing meditations because your mind is still calm from sleeping. It hasn't been pushed into that momentum through stimulation like it would be throughout the day. So these are beautiful times. These are great times for creative work, great times for reflection, great times for if you want to read something or learn something. Use that time if you get up that early in the morning, and usually don't. And try to cut out, in order for you to go to bed, at 9, let's say. For a lot of people, that's ridiculous. That sounds absolutely ridiculous to go to bed at 9. A lot of people don't go to bed before 12. And yes, again, I used to be one of those people. Nowadays, I actually go to bed at 8. I'm not even in retreat mode right now. I go to bed at 8, but that has different reasons because of the kids, but small children. But anyway, there's something very beautiful about lining your sleep schedule up with the natural rhythm of the sun and the light. And but that aside, what would make it easier for you? You're not having dinner anyway, so don't go out for dinner with friends, obviously, and be the one who's just drinking water. That would be ridiculous. Just cut down on your evening activities. Don't watch TV. I'm going to get to TV and media and stuff like that, but just don't watch TV. Don't hang out with friends in the evenings. Don't go out for dinner. Don't go to any parties or concerts in the evenings. Just reduce those evening activities and try to create quiet evenings, non-stimulating evenings. Okay, instead of watching TV, watch a book. Read a book. Okay, or watch if you really need to watch something. Watch something that's called like a documentary or something like that. Not like some action movies or horror movies or anything emotional or anything of that. So try to keep the evenings nice and calm. Try to go to bed at early at 9 o'clock maybe. And even if you can't sleep, then lie in bed and meditate. What a wonderful opportunity. What else are you going to do on the retreat anyway? Okay, so try to mimic that. The sleep schedule can be very, very important for a lot of people. I know. Getting up in the morning is early in the morning. It can be very difficult for people. And again, we're talking about discipline. If you're trying to mimic this at home, you'll be very, very much enticed to say, oh, fine, the alarm clock went off, I did it, but I'm just going to stay, just today. I'm just going to stay and sleep till 6 or 7. And then tomorrow, yeah. And off you are, you're gone. That's it. That's not how it works. The alarm clock rings, you get up immediately, have a cold shower, that's what I do. It has many benefits. We can make a whole video about that. Have a cold shower and sit down and meditate. Discipline. You need to have the discipline. If you don't have discipline, you're going to have a hard time on a Vipassana retreat. If you don't have discipline, you're going to lose out on the benefits of meditation. Meditation, the very foundation of meditation is discipline. At least in the beginning, until you have the first true breakthrough results. And then you will get a level of motivation that will replace the need for a discipline. But at least in the beginning, you're going to have to, it's essential. You have to develop discipline. So, go for it. Another thing that's important if you talk about sleep, and this is something, I think I'm going to make another video that just talks about how to get you through a Vipassana retreat. What you can do during the Vipassana retreat. I don't want to talk too much about that. This is all about preparation, but take some earplugs with you. That's a preparation in itself. But we're going to talk about the pros and cons of earplugs on Vipassana retreat on another video, because it's a tricky thing. There's some things to be considered. Anyway, so I've mentioned a little bit the TV. Okay, let's talk about media. Stimulation that's, let's say, under your control to a certain extent. Okay, so you choose if you are on social media, you choose if you're turning on a TV, you choose if you've got your tablet on in the evenings, you choose if you're listening to music when you're sitting in a car, you choose whatever, if you pick up a magazine while you're sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's practice. There's a certain amount of choice involved when it comes down to how much you stimulate yourself. And then there's that kind of stimulation that you don't choose, that just pours in on you in your everyday life as a member of society, that you can't avoid. But the things that you can avoid, I strongly suggest, this is another, everything I'm telling you is important, okay? So, but this is another very important point, is cut down on your media stimulation. If you have a TV, if you watch TV, I would say at least 2-3 days before the retreat, okay? No more TV. Not at all. Unplug. Don't even turn it on. At least 2 to 3 days before the retreat, no more music. Okay, now this gets into the realm of like, oh God, this dude is crazy. He's like, no music. Why? Look, I can't tell you how many retreats I sat on where in the first 2 to 3 days, the only thing that ran like a loop in my mind was the last song I heard before I came onto the retreat. Okay? It's just a thing. You sit there in silence and all of a sudden you start singing this song to yourself. Okay? Anything that you heard in the last couple of days starts to play, and it can get so annoying. It can get so difficult to stop. It has such a momentum. Music is such a powerful tool. It's such a powerful language in itself. Music is a language. It speaks in rhythms and in harmony. The human body is very receptive to. And you don't even have to talk about lyrics. It's just melodies, that will keep you occupied for a day or two until you get that to stop. It's going to be hard work. I've had this problem numerous times. Situations I've seen on TV or shows or something like that just replay themselves constantly. in your mind. Your mind's going to do anything to entertain itself on a retreat like that. It will literally use any opportunity to move away from the object of your observation that you're going to get. You're going to get objects of observation on a Vipassana retreat, and just try to go and explore something or repeat something or loop something. It's going to go where the action is, and if there's no action, it's going to create action, and it's going to use its memory, the most recent memory, to create action. It's going to, not most recent, you're going to experience all kinds of mental phenomena that I'm not going to get into right now. We'll talk about that on another video when talking about how to get through a Vipassana retreat. But I found it very beneficial to really refrain from indulging in any kind of entertainment in the days leading up to the retreat. Just really try to isolate yourself. Don't get into, if you get into arguments before retreat, if you get into any heated discussions or anything emotional, anything interesting, you have maybe some really great whatever conversation with someone, these things are gonna they're gonna follow you into the retreat, and they're gonna loop, and it's gonna take a lot of effort and discipline to let them go. And you can save that problem. You can get rid of that problem by cutting down on these kind of things. I think another thing that you don't want you to follow into a retreat are, I mentioned it before, that you're going to be asked to hand in your phone. This is a wonderful thing, actually. 10 days without a phone. People love it, okay? At first, people are like, oh my God, I can't do this. How am I going to do this? In the end, they love it. I see so many people that get their phone back and they're like, oh no, don't give it to me now. Just hold on to it for a while and give it to me later. And I'm like, no, please take it. I don't want the response to take it back. No. So, they people then start to really appreciate the peace that you have if you don't have your phone. What a major distraction your phone is, that you're constantly checking and looking at and communicating with. So the phone is you'll be asked to hand in your phone. It's obvious, you shouldn't be surfing the internet or looking something up or calling someone during a Vipassana retreat. That would be a silly thing to do. That's just that would destroy a lot of the hard work that you'd be having to put in to calm your mind. But it's important in terms of preparation. It's important to let everybody know, in the circle of your friends, with your family, anybody at work, please make sure that they know that your phone is going to be offline for the period of time that you're in the retreat. You don't want them to be worried if they try to contact you, and obviously you want to save them the hassle of trying in the first place if they need something and they know that they can't reach you in any way. That will make their life easier, and it will make your life easier. Well, you're not going to have your phone anyway. If it's a good retreat, normally this applies. Most retreats do this. They'll give you a number. That's the number of the facilitator, and that number will be given to you beforehand with all the information that you receive about the retreat, all the details, and then you can pass that number on to anybody who's important to you, and then they can actually, that's still a way how they can reach you. They'll call the facilitator if there's an emergency of some sort, and then the facilitator can contact you. So that's important, just that everybody knows. And also what's important is to not drag any unfinished business into the retreat. Really make sure that everything that needs to be taken care of beforehand, before you go into retreat, is really finished. Okay, no open ends, because this is gonna. I mean, I've seen this so many times where people come in to the retreat and they're like, "Oh, I have to hand in my phone, but no, please, can you do me a favor? Can you call this and that person on day 3 because that's when whatever the pet sitter swaps and this other person comes in, and I have to make sure they have the keys. Otherwise, my cat will starve, and I need to know that. Otherwise, I won't be able to meditate." So, that doesn't work. These kind of things, or at work, oh no, my boss, if something happens with the project, he needs to be able to. Oh no, I didn't quite finish that, and just in case, everything needs to be finished. You need to think of everything, you need to think it through, you need to make a list of everything you need to take care of. You need to check that list off, and it needs to be finished. If you drag anything into the retreat that's not finished, you're not going to have a peace of mind. It's going to be on your mind nonstop, and it's going to ruin your meditation. Okay? So that's a really important aspect that a lot of people, obviously with busy lives, they simply overlook that aspect. They come rolling into that retreat. Another good thing actually for you to do leading up to the retreat would be to become aware that you're coming from a very busy, most likely, if you're working, if you have a normal social life, you're going to come from a very busy schedule, from a very stimulating lifestyle, into the exact opposite. Okay, into a very completely quiet, calm, slow scenario, environment. Like, it's going to be a stark contrast, and that momentum, that buzz that you're in, you're running, blah, 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 blah. You're one of those people, that has all these obligations and things in life. You work, you have relationships, all these things, and you're coming into retreat. That's not just going to stop. It's going to come through into the retreat. That energy is going to be in there. So it's a good idea to come a day or two, if you can, before the retreat starts, to the location where the retreat takes place. I know a lot of people then take an Airbnb or hotel or something, and maybe even at the if you ask the facilitators of the retreat, a lot of retreats have the possibility for you to come and stay in the actual retreat center days before. That's a very, very good thing to do. That's a really beautiful, that creates a beautiful transition. It allows you to calm down. It allows you to let go of all the stress that you otherwise would carry into the first few days of the retreat. So if you have that possibility, why not? It would definitely be worth it. Maybe you can. Another thing that is really, I think, important, what you're going to be asked to do on a retreat, on a Vipassana retreat, is you're going to be asked to really follow the instructions very meticulously, and to by no means practice anything other than what you're taught on a Vipassana retreat. You might have some regular meditation that you do, which is different than what you'll be taught. I mean, not every Vipassana retreat teaches the same kind of meditation. There's this perception out there that I hear a lot from people, that they say, "Oh yeah, I practice Vipassana." Well, to make this very clear, there is no such thing as a Vipassana meditation. It doesn't exist. A Vipassana retreat incorporates several techniques that were taught by the Buddha And not every teacher chooses the same technique. Some teachers, for example, will choose a body scan, which is something that if you're going to a Goenka retreat, you'll do. And others don't do the body scan at all. Some people do walking meditation. Some retreats don't do walking meditation at all. Um, some people will only allow you very specific to use very specific objects of observation physically, and some are very open. So the idea that there is a Vipassana meditation technique that's a false understanding of people. Vipassana itself is a word that describes the result of meditating. Vipassana means to see clearly, clear sight, and to see things the way they really are. That's the result of a very concentrated mind, of a calm mind, of a very thorough observation from a neutral point of view. And you can get to this result in different ways. With Vipassana, they're all techniques that the Buddha taught. But there's no classic truly Vipassana meditation in that sense. But let's say you're using breathing techniques, or you're using visualization techniques. Something like that wouldn't be taught on a Vipassana retreat. So I've moved a little bit strayed a little bit off the path, but what I'm getting to is basically what would be very beneficial for you would be to reduce, if you have an existing meditation practice that you're doing on a daily basis, it would be very beneficial for you to reduce this practice to a very basic, simple observation of the breath, for example, or simple body scan, all these very basic meditations, in the weeks before. So, it can be a week, it can be 2 weeks before, that would be my rough suggestion. But to fade out your specific style of meditation and to bring it back to a very essential, just to a basic observing the breath wherever it is. It doesn't matter if it's at the belly or at the nose or whatever. That doesn't matter. But just to a basic sitting meditation, for example. That way, you don't feel enticed too much when you get into the retreat to bring your old technique with you, and it sort of reboots the system, the meditative habits. You're just tuning it all down to the basics and then building it back up in the retreat to according to the teachings of the teacher in the retreat. So because it's a very strict rule. I mean, I can't look into people's heads, but it's a very strong recommendation to not practice any other meditations than taught on a Vipassana retreat. Adjust yourself if that's not what you're doing. Okay, if you have a radically different meditation, then cut that out in the beginning. That will make it easier, and then you can always go back to that after the retreat. It's no problem. You don't have to give that up. It's just to give the technique of the retreat a fair chance, and allowing you to not be too enticed to immediately snap back into your old technique just because the new one isn't giving you the same results right away. Okay. There's another thing that I like to recommend people. This is specifically only for the preparation time. I've noticed over the years that, okay, so I've been talking for a while now, so I need a drink, I'm sorry. I've noticed over the years that if you ask people to really narrow in their focus on the subtle sensations of their body, that people have difficulties with that. A lot of people have difficulties with that. A lot of people are so removed from their body that, sitting there and just trying to find a sensation in the body without moving the body or without looking at it, it seems impossible to them. And it becomes very frustrating. So there is a technique that I can suggest to you that you can practice in the time leading up to the retreat. And please, I want to be very clear on this. Please don't use this throughout the retreat. This is really just to train your mind to become a little bit more sensitive to physical sensations leading up to the retreat. Okay, I think I said that very clear. And it has something to do with breath work. Breath work has nothing to do with Vipassana. Okay, so please, there's a clear cut here. But what you can do is, in the time leading up to the retreat, maybe you're getting up early in the morning, you have that time, you do some breath work. And all you have to do is breathe deeper than you normally do and a little bit faster. So you're breathing, and you just let it fall out. And you breathe into your stomach, and when the stomach is full, you breathe into your chest, and you just open up the entire body, and you just let it fall out. And you do 30 of those, or 20. It's very simple. Like some people, you might relate it to a Wim Hof technique, or you might relate it to a holistic breath work, or a DMT breath. There's a lot of different names for these things. It doesn't matter. The point is to breathe deeply and a little bit faster than normal to saturate your body with the energy that comes in through the oxygen and through the volume of air that floods your lungs. And what you'll notice is after the 20th or 30th breath, if you get dizzy, might as well stop. You don't have to take it that far. But, your body will be stimulated. And what you do is you just you allow yourself to come back to just your normal breath. Just let it flow naturally again. And just focus on the overall sensation in your body. And what you'll notice is, and I'm not talking about dizziness. You might get dizzy. That's not what I'm talking about. But or that the movement of your lungs or something, when you're breathing heavy still, maybe that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about if you go back to a normal breath after breathing deeply and fast for 30 breaths, the physical sensations in your body will be very strong. There'll be like this tingling, there might be waves, there might be a pulsing, and the whole thing, you can feel that it's alive. Okay, you've saturated the body with energy. It's not so much actually the oxygen. Oxygen levels only go up by 1% or maybe 2 if you do this, but it's the energy. Literally, the energy of your body, the vibration has been stimulated through this breathwork, and you will feel the whole body buzzing. It's alive. It's like this tingling everywhere in the whole body. And what I would suggest you do is you just sit as if you were gonna sit for a sitting meditation, and the object of your observation is just the sensation in your body. And what you're going to notice, what's going to happen, is that the sensation is going to start off strong. And then after a minute or so, At 2 minutes, it's gonna get less and less and less and less and less. And over time, maximum maybe 5 minutes or so, you're gonna get relatively close to the state that you're in normally. And the idea is to, with your awareness, follow these sensations as they get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, and just really try to see if you can follow them as far as you can. And ideally, you'll reach a state where you will never lose them, even if the body's completely calmed down again, completely calm state. You will still be able to feel the frequency, the buzz, the tingling, the liveliness. That's life buzzing in you. That's what it feels like to be alive. You will feel that all the time. But the idea is to really activate it so that you can grab it. If you have difficulties with this, really grab it and then follow it as it gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So you have something to hold on to. And this will train your awareness to pick up more subtle and more subtle and more subtle and more subtle and more subtle sensations. And picking up subtle sensations is a huge aspect of a Vipassana retreat. So that's something, if you have difficulties, I mean, it's an easy thing to do. Just sit down, don't move, close your eyes, and see if you can feel your body. Can you feel something? How do you know? How do you know that you have a body? The parts that are not moving, not your chest, not the air going in and out of your body, just your legs, your arms, your head. How do you know? If you're completely still, can you feel something there? And a lot of people do feel something, but a fair amount of people, I see it on every retreat, they come to me and they say, I can't feel anything. There's nothing I can feel. So if you're one of those, I highly recommend you do this practice only in the time before the retreat, okay? Not during the retreat. Don't become one of those people who's going to sit in a meditation. Okay, that's not the idea behind this, okay? So give that a try if you feel like you could benefit from something like that. The other thing that's really, really beneficial, this is like one of the major things that helped me, I'd say the biggest problem I personally had with getting through Vipassana retreats was the sitting, was the discomfort. Sitting like this, like right now, I'm sitting in a classic half lotus, and I've been sitting like this for 1.5 hours, and it's no problem at all. Okay, but in the beginning for me there was such severe discomfort that the discomfort, the pain in my legs, in my knees, in my back, all the way up to my shoulders and my neck, even my hands, they were just lying in each other. The pain, the physical discomfort was so severe that was the biggest problem I had. And I just couldn't, I couldn't sit through it. I couldn't follow through with the meditation. So my recommendation would be, if that's the case, really try, and this can, you need to start as soon as possible with this, as soon as you can. Sit on the floor. Okay, what I used to do was, if I would eat, I wouldn't sit at a regular table. I had a couch table. I don't know what you call them, a coffee table maybe or something like that. These low tables they have in front of a couch, and I would eat there. I would sit on the floor, cross-legged, and I would eat my meal there. If I would watch something on a TV, back then I still had a TV, and I would watch things. I would watch a movie sitting cross-legged. If I would do something on the computer at home, I would sit on the floor, cross-legged, and work on the computer. So, try to sit in the position that you want to sit in on the retreat as long and as soon as possible and for as long as possible. Now, at this point, I can see that my batteries are getting low, so I'm gonna have to... Alright, I just had to change the battery pack on the camera. Sorry about that, real life situation. Let's see, what were we talking about? Sitting, yes. So, sit at home as much as you can, starting as early as you can, in the position that you are planning to sit in the retreat. Okay, so this is so important. I can't emphasize how important this is. You're going to spend so much time sitting. It's a formal meditation. You're going to be sitting and probably walking. I hope for you you'll be walking. Yeah, it helps to walk. Walking meditation. So I think this is a common problem that people run into. Okay, a lot of people have a certain experience meditating, and they associate a good meditation practice with a proper sitting position. And there, of course, there is a certain truth to that. But I mean, the idea is this, okay? A Vipassana retreat is not a Zen retreat. You are allowed to sit anywhere you want. You can sit in a half lotus like I am right now. You can sit in a regular open lotus. You can sit on a chair. You can sit on maybe you'll have the option of a meditation bench. You can sit on cushions. I mean, there's so many options that you can choose from. You can build yourself a little nest to sit in, with blankets and a yoga mat and cushions. And I mean, the main objective is to be able to sit long enough to make it through one session and to not fall asleep. So, the recommendation is not to rest your back on anything. If you're sitting on a chair, don't rest your back on the back of the chair, because if you get too comfortable leaning back, you're just gonna fall asleep. Or if you're sitting on the floor, don't start to lean on a wall. So these things you want to avoid. But other than that, you can sit anywhere you want. Okay? As long as you can sit comfortably, relatively comfortably, for 45 minutes. Usually one session. And you're going to have numerous of those sessions per day. So by the end of the day, you'll realize maybe that no position is really comfortable. That's the reality of a Vipassana retreat. So the idea is to get it as comfortable as possible. And also, it's so important. A mistake that a lot of people make is they choose this because they have this idea that they need to sit like the teacher, or they need to sit like the Buddha. And they choose to sit cross-legged, although that might not be necessarily the best posture for them. And then after 1 hour or so, they regret that. And then they change to sitting on a chair. And then they realize after a day of sitting on a chair that sitting on a chair might be even more uncomfortable than sitting on the floor. So they go back to the floor, but this time they're going to try a bench. And then the bench is, it's a bit of a hassle. You have to get it in, you have to get it out, then it falls over, makes noise, and then it's pushing against your thighs, and you got these other problems of all of a sudden, maybe with your feet and with your knees, and then let's go back to, and come day 3 or 4, and they still haven't found their final position. They're still trying to figure out what the best way to sit is, and that's not good. Okay, that's something you definitely want to avoid. Usually, you choose a posture and you stick to it, because any posture, literally, it doesn't. I don't care how experienced you are, unless you are like, I mean, really seriously, a serious meditator who's been meditating for a very long time and has a very um, regular routine. Um, you're gonna run into pain. I mean, when I first started the Vipassana retreats, I would try to sit cross-legged. I was able to sit cross-legged at least. Um, I would sit cross-legged. I would then, after 20 minutes or so, switch to one foot on the side and one foot in front of me. And after another 10 to 20 minutes, I would switch to that side. Now, obviously, you want to avoid making too much noise when you switch positions. You can switch positions in a Vipassana tree. It's not that someone's going to come along and hit you with a stick like in a Zen monastery. I mean, obviously, it would be better for your practice if you sit still, but there are techniques to incorporate the change of position into the meditation so that you don't disrupt your meditation. That's entirely possible, and if you do it properly, that's no problem. But ideally, you get used to a specific posture at home, and you sit in that as much as you can. And going into the retreat, you know what posture you're going to sit in. That is essential. That is really super, super, super important. Okay, the more comfortable you are in whatever position is, and please leave the ego outside of the retreat center. A lot of people think, oh no, no, all these meditators there, I'm gonna have to sit in my. I've started sitting in the half lotus. If you don't know what the half lotus is what the Buddha, basically how the Buddha sits. You sit, you put one leg, one foot on the thigh of the other leg, and the other foot is tucked in underneath in your crotch there. So one foot's up and the other one's underneath. That's the classic posture. So there's an ego thing that starts to come into existence, and you want to be the meditator who sits well. You need to let go of these ideas, and they will just become problems on a retreat. And figure that out before you go onto the retreat. See what's realistic for you. It's not about how you sit, really. It's not about how you sit. It's how long can you sit in a posture that's relatively comfortable. That's the only thing that counts. If it's on a chair, it's on a chair. If it's on the floor, it's on the floor. Nobody cares, okay? Everybody's going to sit there with their eyes closed. Nobody cares, okay, other than you. So figure that out for yourself and practice it as much as possible before you go into the retreat, and know how you're going to sit. And then sit like that, no matter what. Make a commitment. I'm going to sit this way or that way, and that's it. I'm not going to change it. It's going to get uncomfortable. So what? Watch it. It's part of you can make it part of the meditation. Okay, so that leads me basically to a point which is it's worth talking about, but it's quite difficult because it really challenges any meditator, and that is expectations. I've been talking when I started this video. I started off by saying that you need to really become aware how precious this opportunity is. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and obviously creating an awareness like that is also creating an expectation, right? So because you're also tying that expectation, you're tying it to a specific outcome. Now, anybody who is going on to a Vipassana retreat is not going for fun, right? We're not going because it's cool or fun, right? I can think of a lot of things that are fun. A Vipassana retreat certainly isn't one of them. We're going to get something. I think it's safe to say that every single person who's going to a Vipassana retreat, unless you're being dragged on one by a friend who doesn't want to go alone, which would be a very bad idea if that's the case. Although I have seen people who came into a retreat like that and who benefited from it. So I wouldn't say don't do it, but anyway, you're going to come with an expectation. That's realistic. And the funny thing is that at least half, although everybody's coming with an expectation, every single person is coming with an expectation, at least half of the people who I talk to before the retreat, and I like to talk about expectations before the retreat, they tell me straight up, oh no, I have no expectations. I know that that's a bad thing, and no, I'm completely free of expectations. I'm just going to take it the way it comes. And it's a complete self-deception. It's not true. And funny enough, the people who do that are often more experienced meditators, because the higher the expectation, the more likely you are to not see it. Okay, or not be honest with yourself about it, because maybe you know that it's there and you know that it's not a good thing, and you're gonna pretend that you don't have it, but it's really not an easy thing to pretend, to not have an expectation. So you have to, the way to work with it is in the time leading up to the retreat, when you prepare yourself, to have an expectation is a good driving force. It's a motivating agent, which can be very important for you to maintain, develop the discipline necessary to to follow through with all your preparations. Okay, but the moment you come to the retreat center, and the moment the retreat starts, that's when you actually have to let go of the expectations. Now, letting go is a big part of a Vipassana retreat. I mean, that's basically, the whole idea of a Vipassana retreat is to let go, let go, let go. You should let go of everything. My teacher always said, note it, know it, let it go. That was one of his favorite things to say. But the reality of the situation, if you really look into how letting go takes place, is it's not something that you can will necessarily. It's a result. Just like Vipassana is a result, letting go is a result of a deeper understanding of what you've been holding on to. Okay. So, in order to deal with expectations on a retreat, and if you don't know why expectations are such a big problem, um, an expectation is a major hindrance on a retreat, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to examine everything that happens to yourself on the retreat, if it is leading to, or maybe already displaying the characteristics of the result that you have in mind. And it means you're going to engage in a cognitive analysis of every phenomena that takes place. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. Cognitive analysis is not meditation. It's not going to get you anywhere. Where it's going to get you is to a point where no insights will unfold, because you're not calming the mind, you're stimulating the mind. The mind is constantly on the lookout and trying to construct something. It's constantly analyzing your practice. It's constantly analyzing the results of the practice, and it's constantly adjusting things, and dwelling in the future, or thinking, when is it going to come, and why hasn't it come yet, and comparing to others, has it come yet for these or that person, and this friend of mine who told me that he had this major insight on day 3, why it's day 5, why haven't I had my major insight yet? This is the only thing that I really wanted. So it's going to entangle you in a narrative, and it's exactly that kind of mental activity that keeps us from seeing reality as it truly is. We try to see something that we want. We're chasing an idea, a concept, a belief, and it's exactly that kind of behavior that we engage in all the time in our everyday lives, which causes so many difficulties for us. It's the cause of suffering for us, and if you drag that into a retreat, then you're gonna be in for some difficult times. I've seen very experienced meditators come on retreats with very high expectations, and I've seen them literally have nervous breakdowns, dark thoughts, okay, to put it that way, because they're not getting the results. And then obviously once they go into some really dark places, and they don't leave, because that would be embarrassing. At some point they give up, and they just let go, and they don't care anymore about the results. They basically call off the retreat in their mind, as a failure, and then the insights unfold, because then the expectation has been let go of, but not because they deliberately wanted to let go, but because the situation unfolded in a certain way, that the letting go was part of the process. So to avoid that kind of an experience, and it's not pleasant at all, that kind of experience, to avoid running into those problems is simply to know, to be honest with yourself, that you have expectations, to know that they're there, and to become aware when you're looking for them, and to treat them as anything else, as any other mental state that arises. And to know, okay, well, there's that expectation, I'm just going to watch it. But don't feed it. The thing is that if you feed expectations with thoughts and stories and these kind of things, then you give them momentum, and as soon as they gain momentum, it gets difficult to let them pass away by themselves, which they will automatically if you don't feed them. So, in terms of preparation, know that you are going with an expectation. Know that you're using the expectation in the time leading up to the retreat to really maximize your effort to prepare yourself, and then be prepared when you go to the retreat, that you are going to have an expectation, and be prepared to watch it. Be prepared to see that it will cause you difficulties, and be prepared to spend some time on it and watching it, and don't feed it. So have a plan how to deal with your expectation, and in order for you to do that, you need to be honest. You need to find out very clearly before you go to the retreat what it is that you're expecting, what's driving you, what made you look for a retreat and sign up for it. What is it exactly? Really get in there and see what it is that you're expecting from it. And again, don't try to avoid that, because it's more powerful than you are. But just learn to see it, get to know it, become familiar with it, become friends with it, and treat it like a child. Treat it like a loving child. Um, um, Treat it with love and acceptance, and as a part of you, and that it's there. And don't fight it, but don't feed it. And it should naturally um, move out of the way. Um, that's the idea, at least. But expectations, uh, it's a big issue on retreats. Pretty much everybody runs into the problem of having expectations, and runs into the problem of having the expectations become a hindrance of the meditation. It's normal. So just know that, and that in itself would be quite good as a preparation. The other thing is, if you suffer from any kind of mental health problems, if you have a depression, if you're bipolar, if you have anxieties, if you have suicidal thoughts, if you have addictions, severe addictions, alcoholism, any kind of drug addictions, if you suffer from schizophrenia, paranoia, whatever it is, any kind of mental health issues, you are most likely, I mean, it would be not good if a retreat center wouldn't ask you about your mental health state. What they usually do is they send you a questionnaire up front, at latest upon arrival. Depends if it's a first come first serve show up retreat center, but they're going to inquire into your mental health situation, and medications that you're taking, even physical health, which is not quite as important. I really want to address the mental health, because in my experience, what happens with people quite frequently, it's a common thing, is that people who have mental health problems, that mental health problem very often is the major reason why that person is coming to retreat. And it is a severe problem in that person's life. And that person has most likely tried to resolve that problem in many different ways. Through medication, through therapy, through making major changes in his or her life, moving, different jobs, different relationships, all kinds of things, distracting themselves with all kinds of things, consumerism or drugs or sex, partying, whatever it is, alcohol, drugs. So there's a certain desperation, and this desperation leads people to sometimes either play things down or completely don't name them at all in a questionnaire. So because they're afraid that they might be judged, or they are afraid that in worst case scenario they would be refused to partake in the retreat. And this is a realistic fear. Depending on where you want to go, if you go to a Goenka retreat center, if you name a severe mental health issue on your application sheet, chances are you're probably going to be denied, which is to a certain extent understandable, because a place like that, these retreat centers, Goenka retreat centers, they have a very high number of students coming through, and Goenka himself, well, obviously he's dead, and so you have a whole bunch of facilitators, and these people have to deal with a lot of people coming through, and if there's a potential for a problem to arise through mental health, pre-existing conditions, then they rather not deal with that. I understand, because it is a difficult thing to deal with as a facilitator. It can become a problem, a real problem. It can not only disrupt the entire retreat and affect all the other students, but it can. There is a certain responsibility as a teacher and as a facilitator for the safety of the students. And if you can't guarantee that safety, then it might be easier to take the safe way and say no to somebody who has a certain level of risk. That said, I think it's really important and essential that if you haven't mentioned any issues that you have, you've applied, you've been accepted, and now you're thinking how to prepare yourself. If you haven't mentioned anything, do it. If it means that you are going to get kicked off the retreat before it starts, then that retreat is not the right retreat for you in the first place. Then you need to look for a retreat center that is willing to take you on, knowing that you have those problems. And then these retreat centers usually have certain, let's call them safety measures in place. Maybe a psychologist on standby, certain procedures. They will monitor you very closely. They have a certain size of group, maybe the group is smaller, and then they have the ability to monitor you very closely. They can arrange a talk every day, an interview every day, that will allow them to assess your situation, your state of mind as you go through the retreat. And as soon as there are any indications that it's going the wrong way, then they can take you out, they can advise you, they can get you help, these kind of things. If you know that that applies to you, then please give these words thorough consideration. It's really important that everybody who's involved in a retreat, the facilitators, the teacher, and you and your relatives are aware of the circumstances. So that I consider that part of the preparation. Another thing that is quite helpful to know, that I've experienced and I've seen cause problems a lot on retreats, is when people come in pairs. So let's say you have a couple and both sign up for this retreat, or you have friends, best friends, we're going to do this together, we're going to support each other, and then they both sign up for this retreat, and they're both on a retreat. Okay, so that's not a good idea. If you have signed up already and you're coming together, then there's certain things you need to do. We'll get to that in a minute. If you haven't, if you're thinking about coming with someone, don't. I mean, really, don't even consider it. You would make it so much more difficult for yourself. Not just for yourself, but also for others. Because Vipassana retreats are silent retreats, to start off with, as an argument. And the first people, and this is, I can guarantee you this, okay, the first people who break the silence on a Vipassana retreat are couples, are friends, or couples. And it's obvious because, they know each other. It's an extreme experience. Sometimes they need someone to talk to. If you don't know someone, then you're not going to break silence. You're not going to talk to a stranger, right? So that will help you maintain silence. But if you know someone who's dear to you and close to you, and you have a certain understanding just by looking at each other. That person can maybe see that you're trying to get their attention, and then you just walk behind some wall, and then you immediately engaged in speaking. Or, you might not even have a problem, you might just have a major insight, and then you're like, oh my God, I need to tell you about this. This is life-changing, and whatever, I don't care about the rest of the retreat. I need to talk to you about this. You're basically ruining the other person's experience, ruining yourself, your own experience as well. Keeping silence on a Vipassana retreat is a major, major rule. And there's a lot of reasons why, but don't want to get into those now. This video is getting too long anyway. But it's going to make things difficult. If you see somebody, if you're with someone who you know on a retreat, and you see they're going through difficult times, you're going to start thinking about them. Or maybe they're not showing up to the meditation, and then you're in thoughts, you're already there. Maybe you're going to get up and look at, try to see where they are. It just adds so many additional factors that will throw you off track with your meditation, that it's not worth it. It really isn't. If you haven't booked it and you're planning on going together, please don't. It really doesn't work. And if you have booked it already and you're going together, and one of you doesn't wanna pull out and go to another time, you have to speak to each other about the difficulty, the additional challenge that you are going to take on by going in as two people who know each other. And you have to commit to a much more rigorous discipline if you want to have the same result as the other people on the retreat. You're going to have to commit in a whole different level of discipline. I'm talking about not even looking at each other. Or don't even think about going into the same room. Most facilitators, if they know that you know each other, won't put you in the same room anyway. But don't even think about. Try to be as far away from each other in the meditation hall, wherever you choose to walk, do your walking meditation, wherever you sit when you eat, and wherever you choose your rooms. Or maybe you don't have the option to choose your rooms, but you'll tell the facilitator that you want to be as far away from each other as possible, and really try to not even look at each other. That's something that you have to talk about in terms of preparing for that, and you have to make a commitment. And you have to understand truly why you're making that commitment. It's really because if you start looking at each other, friends, one look is enough to, tell a whole story. And if you're emotionally involved with that person, then you care about that story. And no matter how much you plan on just focusing on yourself, in your head, in your mind, you're going to be with that other person, because it's such a severe thing. I mean, it's such a important thing in the life of a practitioner of a Vipassana retreat. It's like I said in the beginning, spend enough time talking about it. It's life-changing. And of course, if you're with a friend, life-changing friend, it should be obvious. So consider that in your preparation, in the time leading up to the retreat. If you're going together, talk about it, make a commitment, make a plan, so you minimize the risk of falling into that trap. Um, Ideally, don't go together. Cancel. One of you needs to cancel. That's my honest advice. Now, in order for it to utilize the full potential of the retreat, you gotta go alone. I've gone on retreats with friends. It was never a good idea. It always distracted me. Always. Not a good idea. Okay. And so I think to wrap it up, I think I think the whole idea of making a commitment is really good. You're gonna run into problems on the retreat. You're gonna run into your limits. You're gonna be pushed to your edge, and you're gonna find new limits, and it really does help to make a commitment. Make a commitment before you go on the retreat that you're gonna do it as good as you can. You're gonna give it your full attention, and you're gonna really commit completely to the retreat. You're not just gonna do it half. You're gonna try to sit through any discomfort. They will teach you techniques to deal with a physical discomfort. And just, look in the mirror. Walk up to the mirror and look yourself in the eyes and tell yourself that you love yourself. It's loving kindness is a big part of a lot of Vipassana retreats. Tell yourself that you love yourself, that you're doing an amazing job, you're doing something so extraordinary, and that you're gonna give it everything you can without any big expectations. You're just gonna do these 10 days, one day at a time, one session at a time. You're gonna be on a roller coaster, it's gonna go up and down, you're gonna have great days, you're gonna have bad days. Just know this before you go there. Don't expect any miracles to happen. Major insights can unfold weeks after the retreat. Just make a commitment that you're going to follow the instructions, you're going to take it moment by moment, and you're just gonna pull it through. There's no quitting. Just for those 10 days, just do what you're asked to do, no matter what happens, no matter how hard it's gonna get, how weird it's gonna get. I mean, if it gets, if reality starts to change in ways that you get discomfort, obviously you need to talk to someone. But often it's just that barely ever happens with anyone. Most people just get pushed to the concentration. You get tired, concentrating the whole time. Even if you're tired, just do it as good as you can. Make a commitment. Speak with yourself like this. Speak with yourself in the mirror before you go on the retreat as if you were someone else. I love you. You're doing an amazing job. I'm so proud of you that you're going to do this. Good is going to come from this. Maybe in ways that you can't imagine yet. Maybe it's not what you expect. Don't be worried. Don't be disappointed. Just do it. Stay calm and persevere to the best of your ability. Make a commitment and say, I am going to do this. You're going to do this. You can do this. Okay? No matter what. And that's how you go into the retreat, and then you do it. Just like an athlete does before they perform. It's preparing your mind. It's setting your mind up to be in a certain state of mind when you go in there. So now I've given you a lot of information. I think, my honest opinion, this is the most comprehensive advice you're going to find on the internet. If you're still with me, if you're still watching, congratulations. If you're going on a retreat soon, I wish you all the best for your spiritual practice. May you get what you need, and may you persevere, and may you grow as a human being and discover reality as it truly is, and not how you think it is or how other people tell you it is. All right? Best of luck to you.